Many thanks for joining me on Global News and Zoom on Nigeria. The story says Arakan Army seizes key city in northwestern Myanmar. Trump wins in Iowa, securing 2024 front-runner role. Kim shorts agencies for North-South Korea reunification. Ukraine downs 2 Russian command planes. And Israel alleges Hamas conflict mental anguish on hostages' families. An armed ethnic group fighting as part of an alliance against the Myanmar military, the Arakan Army AA, has claimed control of a major western town close to the border with India and Bangladesh. The AA, which was an uneasy treaty with the military until late October, said it took full control of Paletua in Chin State on Sunday afternoon, having overrun numerous military outposts. There is not a single military council camp left in the whole Palawa area, it said in a statement which was accompanied by photos outside key administrative buildings adorned with the group's flag, as well as weapons, ammunition, and military equipment it had seized. There was no comment from the military on the situation in Paletua. The capture of Paletua is another obstruction to the generals who are facing the biggest challenge since they seized power from the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi in a coup in February 2021. The AA claims to have around 30,000 troops and is part of the so-called Three Brotherhood Alliance with the Myanmar National Democratic Alliance Army MNDAA and the Tang National Liberation Army TNLA that hurled a major offensive against the military at the end of October. Known as Operation 1027, the offensive has signed control of major towns and military outposts close to the border with China in the north and given renewed momentum to the anti-coup movement. The Minister of International Cooperation in the National Unity Government set up by the politicians removed in the coup, Dr. Sasa, welcomed the AA capture of Paletua. This is a significant success for the nationwide revolution, the Spring Revolution of Myanmar, the fight to free the entire population of Myanmar from the genocidal military dictatorship and to restore Myanmar to the path of an inclusive federal democratic union for all, he wrote on X. On politics, ex-United States President Donald Trump has finally won the Iowa caucuses, solidifying his Republican front-runner status as he bids to regain the White House in 2024. On Monday, Trump conveniently beat former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in a widely expected result, taking him a step closer to securing a third consecutive nomination for the presidency. Trump won at least 20 of 40 delegates, with DeSantis taking 8 and Haley receiving 7. Provisional scores showed, with U.S. media outlets calling the statewide contest about 30 minutes after the commencement of voting. Biotech startup founder Vivek Ramaswamy, who won 2 delegates, announced as the results came in that he was leaving the race and would endorse Trump. Trump's commanding victory points to his continuing dominance over the Republican Party, even as he faces increasing legal woes, including 4 criminal indictments. He is anticipated to appear in court in New York on Tuesday as a jury considers whether he should pay for the damages to a writer who won a $5 million US jury award against him for sexual assault and defamation. Trump's legal challenges have done little to reduce his support among Republicans, several of whom view the cases against him as politically motivated. Iowa has a mixed record of forecasting the eventual Republican nominee. George W. Bush was the last GOP presidential candidate to win the state in 2000. But the mainly rural Midwestern state is seen as a significant springboard for candidates contending for delegates in New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina. Iowans braved dangerously cold weather to assemble at over 1,600 schools, community centers, and other sites in the first vote in the 2024 presidential race. Ahead of the Iowa caucuses, Trump's lock on the Republican grassroots was clear, with polls showing the businessman turned politician having a double-digit lead over his rivals. Many Republican voters in Iowa cast Trump as the best candidate to tackle their anxieties about the economy, record levels of refugee and migrant arrivals at the southern border, and global instability. Still on politics, North Korea has fought many government bodies saddled with endorsing reconciliation and reunification with South Korea as authoritarian leader Kim Jong-un cautioned that his secretive country does not seek to avoid war. In a speech to North Korea's rubber-stamp parliament, the Supreme People's Assembly, Kim said unification with South Korea is no longer possible and called for a constitutional amendment to change the status of South Korea to a separate hostile country, reports said on Tuesday. We don't want war, but we have no intention of avoiding it, Kim was quoted as saying, according to report. In a statement, the Supreme People's Assembly said that 3 organizations handling inter-Korean reconciliation, the Committee for the Peaceful Reunification of the Country, the National Economic Cooperation Bureau, and the Maotkom-Gang International Tourism Administration were short. According to report, the 2 most hostile states who are at war are now in acute confrontation on the Korean peninsula, the Assembly said. The decision marks a further worsening in ties between the Koreas following a series of recent missile tests by Pyongyang. On Tuesday, South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol condemned North Korea's step to define his country as hostile, saying it showed Pyongyang's anti-national and historical nature. North Korea on Monday said it had tested a new solid-fuel missile fitted with a hypersonic warhead weeks after carrying out the launch of its Hwasong-18 solid-fuel intercontinental ballistic missile. Japan, South Korea, and the United States have added joint military drills that Pyongyang sees as rehearsals for a future invasion in reaction to the weapons tests. U.S. senior official for the DPRK, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, North Korea's official name, Jong-H Park, over the weekend, held a joint call with her South Korean and Japanese counterparts to condemn Pyongyang's newest missile test, the U.S. State Department said on Monday. Away from politics, now to Russia-Ukraine war. Ukraine has said it shot down an A-50 Russian reconnaissance plane and an Il-22 airborne command post in a potentially major blow to the Kremlin forces. Valery Zaluzhnyi, the Ukrainian army chief, announced in a statement the aircraft have been hit on Monday, posting a video of tracking maps suggesting the planes were struck over the Sea of Azov, which lies to the east of the Russian-occupied Crimean Peninsula. Hours after Zaluzhnyi's statement, a Russian military blog posted an image of the shrapnel-riddled tail section of a Tu-22 standing on the tarmac and lauded the crew as real heroes. Yuri Ignat, Kyiv's Air Force spokesman, posted the image saying the plane appeared to have made it to the Russian town of Anapa, but that it was beyond repair as it had been on fire. He added that the A-50 had been Kyiv's priority aim. The A-50 is a Russian reconnaissance plane equivalent to the AWACS Airborne Warning and Control System plane used by NATO. Topped with a large radar, it typically has a crew of 15 and can scan an area of several hundred kilometers for enemy aircraft, ships and missiles. The Russian Air Force is thought to have 9 of the planes in its fleet. A spokesperson for Ukraine's Southern Military Command, Natalia Humenyuk, told a briefing that Russia had used the plane extensively to prepare for and conduct long-range missile strikes on Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Tu-22 oversees military operations and sends radio signals to troops on the front line. The Russian Air Force reportedly has a dozen such planes. Dmitry Peskov, Kremlin spokesman, said he had no information on the attacks and that further questions should be directed to the Defense Ministry. Russia has widely maintained air dominance since launching a full-scale invasion of its neighbor nearly 2 years ago. The A-50 and Il-22 play a central role in orchestrating Russian battlefield movements in Ukraine. Their loss will be a landmark feat for Kyiv as well as a major blow to Moscow, with fighting along the front line largely bogged down in trench and artillery warfare. On Monday, Israel said Hamas is carrying psychological torment as the militant group released a third video in the space of 24 hours featuring the same 3 hostages being held in Gaza, the last of which appears to show 2 of the hostages dead. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant told reporters on Monday that Hamas are hit badly by the IDF and all that is left for them is to bring psychological torment to the families of the hostages, leaving the IDF to clarify things for the families later. The first video released Sunday showed clips of the three hostages speaking to a camera. It ended with a caption saying, "Tomorrow we will inform you of their fate." A second video released Monday in an apparent effort by Hamas to increase concerns repeated the message that the fate of the three hostages will soon be made public. Later on Monday, the third video release appeared to show the dead bodies of two of the hostages. It also featured Naor Argamani saying both men had been killed by Israeli forces. It is not clear if Argamani was speaking under duress. The video is also highly edited, with the adding of audio effects and the looping of some of her words. Daniel Hagari, IDF chief spokesperson, addressed the videos in his Monday evening briefing, saying Itai Seversky had not been hit by Israeli forces, as the third video claimed. He said the IDF had not hit the building where the three were being held, as the video also claimed, but had hit nearby. The army spokesperson added that IDF representatives had met with the families of the three hostages and updated them on the freshest information they had, adding that the IDF expressed grave concern for the fate of the two captives. On more stories, Iran fires missiles in Iraq and Syria. On Monday, Iran's Revolutionary Guards launched ballistic missiles as what it said was a spy base for Israel's intelligence agency Mossad in northern Iraq and at anti-Iran terror groups in Syria in the newest intensification of hostilities that further risk spiraling into a wider regional conflict. The strikes were condemned by the United States as reckless and imprecise. Iranian forces said the midnight missile strike in Iraq damaged one of the main espionage headquarters of Israel in Erbil, capital of the semi-autonomous Kurdistan region, in response to what they said were Israeli attacks that killed Iranian Revolutionary Guard commanders and members of the Iranian Resistance Front. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps IRGC said in a statement on Monday that this headquarters has been the center for developing espionage operations and planning terrorist acts in the region and Iran. The IRGC also said it hit many locations in Erbil and claimed the target size of Iranian opposition groups. No less than 4 civilians were killed and 6 others injured in the attack, according to a statement early Tuesday by the Security Council of the Kurdistan region. A large villa belonging to a well-known Kurdish businessman was also destroyed, according to reports from the region. There were unconfirmed reports of casualties at the residential property, though it is not known if the building was an intended target. The Security Council said in a statement, this blatant violation undermines the sovereignty of the Kurdistan region and Iraq, which accused Iran of employing baseless pretexts to attack Erbil, a historically stable region that it said had never posed a threat to any party. The IRGC also on Monday said it fired missiles at bases of anti-Iran terror groups in occupied territories of Syria. It claimed the targets were involved in the recent dual bombings in the city of Kerman during a memorial for the slain Quds Force commander Qasem Soleimani that left scores dead and injured. ISIS claimed responsibility for the deadly twin blast near Soleimani's burial site in what was the deadliest attack in Iran since its 1979 revolution. In a statement, the IRGC said identified and destroyed a number of significant terror commanders and elements, especially Daesh, ISIS, in the occupied territories of Syria by firing a number of ballistic missiles. A U.S. official said on Monday initial signs of Iran's missile attacks showed this was a reckless and imprecise set of strikes. Now in Africa, South Africa legal giants returned heroically from The Hague. After an exhausting fight in the international arena, the South African legal team finally returns from The Hague. Their untiring efforts have aimed to make sure justice and accountability triumph amidst the ongoing conflicts in Gaza. Tambika, advocates and legal scholars said, and I quote, "You must not forget that a struggle continues. This is just an episode in the long struggle. You heard Adila saying it's about 75 years of the occupation, so the struggle continues. It will not end. This week marked an important episode, but it did not mark the culmination of a very crucial turning point. We must look at the issue through a legal lens. As the war in Gaza reaches an unprecedented 100 days, the arrival of the South African legal team brings hope and renewed determination. Their expertise and unwavering commitment to human rights have left a lasting effect on the global stage. That's our inspiration when President Mandela said South Africa is not free until Palestine is free. That's something that remains deeply. Of course, we are also inspired by the Freedom Charter that says there shall be peace and friendship in the world. Crispin Fury, Ministerial Spokesperson, RSA Department of Justice, said South Africans have sung the praises of the legal team, not only for calling for a quick ceasefire and access to aid, but for the heightening the plight of Palestinians globally. As the war awaits judgment from the International Court of Justice, ICJ, the intense conflict continues while scores of lives and millions are displaced. On sports, AFCON, Senegal opens title defense with 3-0 win. On Monday, Lamine Camara scored twice as defending champions. Senegal began the African Cup of Nations with a comfortable 3-0 win over Gambia. Camara's second strike was arguable. The goal of the tournament so far, a shot inside the right top corner from around 20 meters yard in the 86th after being set up by Iliman Ndiaye. Sadio Mane, who is hoping to lead the country to a second straight title, got his team off to a good beginning in the 4th minute when he set up Pape Gueye for the opener. Gambia had already tolerated an ordeal to reach the competition when the team's airplane experienced a sudden loss of oxygen, and its task was made even harder in first half injury time with Airbold Adams, who was sent off for catching Camara at the back of his heel. It was the first red card of the tournament. Camara scored his first goal early in the second half with a low strike inside the far post after making a run into the area. Now we take a quick break, and when we come back, more stories coming your way. Do stay with us. Welcome back. From Nigeria, with heightening insecurity, abduction crisis spreads across the nation. The bane of abductions which has shocked social and economic activities in the northwest, has spread nationwide as bandits and other criminal elements have stirred their operations into the major cities across the country. The hoodlums, who previously operated on highways and in rural communities, have in recent times intensified the attacks on residents of Lagos, Abuja, and other urban areas. The killing of 4 abducted victims from the Sagwari Estate layout in Dutsen Alhaji area, Buari Area Council of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, sparked an upsurge of rage on Monday as the bandits who kidnapped 7 family members demanded 700 million naira for their release. On Friday, the hoodlums had killed Nabiha Al-Qadria, a 400-level student of biological science, Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, over alleged delay in providing the ransom, generating a firestorm of anger across the country and on social media. The remaining 5 sisters, including Najiba, a 500-level quantity surveying student, and Nadria, a 300-level zoology student, are still in captivity as of Monday night. On January 11th, the siblings were kidnapped alongside their father, Alhaji Mansour Al-Qadria, from their home at Zuma 1 on the outskirts of Buari town in Abuja. The captors had released Al-Qadria, asking him to pay 60 million naira ransom for the release of his daughters. According to reports, the bandits later raised the ransom to 100 million naira for each captive, which they insisted must be paid by Wednesday. In a bid to secure the release of the hostages, however, the Al-Qadria family sought financial support from Nigerians. The bandits also murdered in cold blood 13-year-old Folashade Ario, abducted alongside her mother and 3 siblings. 2 unidentified hostages were also killed by the bloodthirsty criminals, and their bodies were dumped around a former military checkpoint behind Ida Junction along the Buari-Jere SCC Road in the Kagarko local government area of Kaduna State. On Sunday, reports said Folashade had been buried while her mother and siblings were still with their captors. Meanwhile, no fewer than 9,754 were killed, while there were 4,049 abduction cases across the country between January and December 2023. This is according to the 2023 Nigeria Security Report by Beacon Consulting, an Abuja-based security risk management and intelligence consulting company. Finally, on the news, Tinubu, others pay tribute to fallen heroes. Yesterday, on Armed Forces Remembrance Day, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu led the Senate President Godswill Akpabio, members of the Federal Executive Council, National Assembly, service chiefs, and the diplomatic corps to honor the nation's fallen and living heroes. Governors of the 36 states of the Federation and regional organizations also marked the event in their various states with assurances to improve the lives of retired and servicing military officers and family members of the fallen heroes. Armed Forces Remembrance Day is celebrated yearly to honor the fallen heroes who laid down their lives in service to humanity during the First and Second World Wars, the Nigerian Civil War, peace missions, and various internal security operations. The event is also used to honor veterans still alive and as a medium for soliciting financial, moral, and material support for the families of the fallen heroes. President Tinubu in Abuja led the ceremonial wreath and thereafter signed the anniversary register and released the ceremonial pigeons as a sign of national peace and freedom. Another look at the top stories. Arakan Army seizes key city in northwestern Myanmar. Trump wins in Iowa, securing 2024 front-runner role. Kim shots agencies for North-South Korea reunification. Ukraine downs 2 Russian command planes, and Israel alleges Hamas inflicts mental anguish on hostages' families. And that's all on the news from the crew. Have a good day.